Hello, Podfam, and hello, Rachel. How are you today?
I am doing good, Laura. We are just entering into a 4-day long
Oh,
weekend, and I am feeling so good
oh
about
my
it
God.
because I was going to combust if I had to work for one more day.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, and the thing is, we thought we were going into a 3-day weekend.
I know it's so much
I
better
know. And then
now.
surprise, surprise, we're like, nope, take Monday too. And I was like, oh, bless your souls.
Yeah, we're going
Yes.
shopping. We're going to get some sleep. We're going to have a great weekend, and I can't
Oh,
wait.
neither
Yeah.
can I. But for this evening, what are you drinking?
I have my maple cinnamon waffles tea again because it's been a while since I've had
Oh,
it,
that's fun.
but I didn't ask how you were doing.
Oh, how am I doing? We'll get into it for the episode. So
Mm. All
don't
right.
worry, I'll let everyone know how I'm doing, but it's so relevant to the topic tonight that yeah, I'll hold my peace over here.
Sounds good. Well, what are you having to drink?
Well, I've got a new tea. I don't know if I've had this one on the pod yet, and it is a honey ginger latte.
Oh, that is different.
Yeah,
You've had a latte like that, but it's not the honey
yeah, this
ginger.
one's a little bit different. It looks really gross if you look at it in the jar because it's all, like, clumpy. Yeah.
Ew.
But it's a, black tea mixed with, like, ginger, and then it has bee pollen in it and a little bit of honey. So, yeah,
Aw.
it's kind of a cool tea. It's an interesting flavor. I like it, but I always forget that I have it, and I was kinda looking for something a little bit different tonight, and, out came the jar. So, yeah, that's what I'm having.
You're shaking it up
Yes, I
today.
am.
Well, why don't you lead us into what we're going to be talking about today? Because we needed this episode,
Oh
guys.
my god, this episode could not have picked a more perfect week. And,
Yeah.
if you obviously saw the title, we're gonna be talking about managing and dealing with unrealistic expectations of ourselves
Oh,
and of other people.
oof,
And
oof.
this episode will be posted on time. However, this
Mhm,
episode is not being recorded when it should have been recorded because
mhm.
yesterday, when Rachel and I should have sat down to do this, I, for one, was definitely throwing myself a little pity party for one,
Yeah.
and you, Rachel, were also throwing yourself a pity party for one. And then we called
Yes.
each other, and that pity party became a party for 2. And
For about 3 or 4 hours,
yes,
actually.
like, it was just a freaking day. It's been a week,
Mhm,
and we just
mhm.
needed a day to throw ourselves little pity parties, and we're feeling better. Rachel, I know, like, it was, like, both kinda, like, personal body issues for
We've been
us.
spiraling ever since last episode,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, so I guess I'm gonna jump off because it kinda leads into what I wanted to talk about tonight. So if you guys listened to last week's episode, I shared my skin journey, and at the end, I told everyone that I'm currently on, my 2nd week of tretinoin, and this was
Mhm,
the, gel that a dermatologist had not described to me, prescribed to me. I wish she had
mhm,
described it to me a little bit better. Um
mhm.
because, like, my skin has just been breaking out like crazy, and it's red, it's
Mhm.
flaky, it hurts, and I was doing so well before, so, like, I've just been kinda
Mm.
throwing myself a little pity party because my skin was doing so well, and now it's, like, awful. Um,
Mm.
and, like, my boyfriend, oh, God love him. He was
Mm.
just being, like, so supportive. He's just like, "Oh, you're so beautiful, like, don't put on makeup, you're so nice, and you look great." And I just at the time, I didn't need someone to tell me I looked good. I just needed
Yeah.
someone to listen and just go like,
Mhm,
"Hey, Laura, that really sucks." And I wanted to be like, "I know." So you were kind of
mhm.
my person for me yesterday over that, where I was just like, "Listen, I don't need advice. I don't need you to tell me I look pretty. I just need to tell you how I feel, and you're gonna tell me, wow, that really sucks." You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was kind of the day yesterday, and Rachel, I know you were having your own little issue, and you need me to be that person, so
Yeah.
I hope I was that person for you, and,
Yes, you
Yes.
were. Yes, you
Yeah.
were. Well, see, my thing is like I needed a woman
Yes.
to talk to. And I mean, I know we're gonna like touch on what our issues later this episode, but since you went into yours, I'll go into mine. But a large percentage of our audience is women, and so I feel like you guys will kind of understand where I'm coming from. But birth control has always been a very difficult thing for me. We touched on it a bit last week,
Mhm.
but originally I was on the less birth control pill and I had breakthrough bleeding like the entire time, so my period would be 2 weeks long. So obviously that wasn't working.
Right.
Then I went on tricycline low, did the same thing. It kind of worked for about 3 months and then it started again because the balance of the hormones was just it was too low for me.
Mhm.
I needed something higher. And then I went on tricycline, which you were on as well, and it worked great, except for the fact that it gave me hormonal migraines.
Yep.
And then I went off of it, and we've talked about it. I think we talked about it in an episode that we did way, way early on, if you guys want to go listen to that. But, I went off that birth control pill around the same time that you did because was discontinued.
Yeah, we literally
And
couldn't get it
then
anymore.
you literally couldn't get it. And then my post birth control issue was back knee,
Oh, right.
if you remember
I
that.
do.
Remember
Yeah, I
that?
do.
And like it was kind of I've never really experienced that before, and it was, like, all over the place, and it was so, so difficult to deal with, and then it kind of went away, and then without testing me, my naturopath put me on a kind of estrogen balancer, herbal remedy, whatever,
Yeah.
pill, to try to get rid of my headaches and to help with the back knee, and it was working. It was great, and then that pill that I was on back order. So they decided, all right, well, this is another brand that is kind of the same thing. You can go on this one. My headaches got way worse. And I was like, okay, I need to get off of that. And I did. And then going off of that, guess what happened after that?
What happened?
I started to have ovulation spotting.
Great.
So every single time I would ovulate, I would bleed for 2 days. Not bleed like spot, but it's still
Mhm.
bleeding for 2 days, if not more. And then, because it was so difficult to see my doctor last summer and it kind of just got thrust upon me, I had an IUD put in 2 months after that started happening without any testing or anything of what was going on. And they were like, oh, no, no, that should regulate. That should regulate, right?
Mhm.
Because that's kind of what the IUD does. Anyway, the one that I am on is the Kylena IUD, which is basically like the lowest, it's like it's the lowest dose
Of
that you can
hormones.
get for a hormonal IUD. So I went on that. And they're like, no, 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 it'll regulate in 3 to 6 months. You'll stop spotting and stuff. It's now been over 6. We're actually on my
I was gonna
8th
say,
month
it's been, like, almost
now.
9 months now, hasn't it?
Yes. Yes. And I will have a period and then it will last maybe 8 to 10 days of just, usually the 6th to 10th day is just like a little
Mhm.
spotting. And then it'll go away. And then I'll spot at ovulation again for
Great.
2 or 3 days.
Great.
Um, and I think that it's increased by stress because it's a very stressful time at work right now because we work in the finance industry and I'm heavily involved on the taxes side. So we all are having a great time with that right now. So I'm very stressed out. I'm pretty sure I've been spotting more days this month than I have not been spotting.
And that's just so frustrating, right? Like, I don't
Yes,
know,
because
you
I
just you
don't.
don't know what's going on, and it's not something
Yeah,
you can just, like, control. You don't just slap a Band-Aid on that one.
I know, and then it will go away for a bit, and then you go to the bathroom and, like, when you can tell your period's about to start, so it's, like, a little pink or
Yeah.
whatever, and then I'll notice that again, and I'm like, "Well, fuck." Like, is it just gonna start up again? Is this just one of those, like, fake, like, it might happen, but it's just, like, a false alarm? So, I did take some action steps, and I did, book an appointment with my doctor to
Excellent.
go see her because 'cause I'm like, "I can't do this," and I also found a great chain because there's no information out there beyond the, "Oh, it'll regulate in 3 to 6 months," but it was other women talking about their experience where, like mine almost seems reasonable. Like there are people that out there that were like, "Oh, I've been bleeding like every day since I got it." And that's just terrible because they just kind of put you on it. And now that I think back about the fact that a less and tricycline low didn't work for me because of the low dosage of hormones. So now I'm like, did I just get put on basically the less of IUDs by my doctor who knew that the low dosage doesn't work for me? So, yeah, we're going to go see my doctor. Most likely, they're just going to refer me to a gynecologist, and that's going to take about 3 to 4 months. So, yeah, it's great. And I just needed to talk to you so that you could be like, yes, that fucking sucks. And I'm sorry. And we can cry together because I, I just, I honestly just cracked yesterday because, even my naturopath was like, oh, it'll regulate. Like everyone kept telling me it was going to regulate. So each month, if it was like a good month where maybe it was only 1 or 2 days of spotting, I was like, okay, like it's regulating. Where this month it's just been so much of it that I was just like, I just I just hit that low where I was like, I don't think it's gonna do what you are telling me constantly it's going to do. And that was really hard to go through yesterday because it was just like, I don't know, I feel like it's something that you feel like I'm like, "Oh, I could live with it, I could live with it." But it's like, am I just telling that to myself because, women have been socialized to be like, "Oh, periods are just part of life and, you can live with it."
Yeah, I have to agree with you 100% on that. Like, we are so programmed just to be like, "Oh, just put up with it. It's fine. It's fine. Like, brush it off, walk it
Mhm.
off, it's whatever." We're really a lot of these problems that we deal with, we don't have to live with them, Like,
No.
it's one of those things where, it might take some time to figure out what is wrong and what that fix is going to be,
Mhm.
but a lot of things we deal with, like, there has to be a solution out there. So, like,
Yes.
welcome to our pity party, listeners. Sorry, you guys just all got
Yes.
invitations. Um,
Yes, so where I was going with that was that essentially I went into this because, like, the I like, for terms of birth control, I think I've seen a shift recently where, people are kind of straying away from the pill and the IUD has become this like mecca, 99.9% effective, et cetera, that I was like, oh, they're just going to put it in. It's going to be great. And I won't have to worry about anything.
mhm.
Um, that expectation has come crashing down.
Yeah, and I love it because we're just gonna bring it back to unrealistic expectations or really just expectations in general. So I was listening to a talk by, Dr. Duncan Cross, and, his
Hmm.
talk is on TEDx. I love TEDx. And he was discussing this idea of ICE, so IEC. I think this is so applicable for women or whoever they're doing something like with you it's your breakthrough bleeding, with me it's my acne, where we have this expectation, to not be bleeding every few days and to not have
Hmm.
constant breakouts, and that's our expectation, that's what we want. And
Hmm.
we're sold or told about these things that are just going to be like the be all and end all, right? Like, this is going to
Yeah.
solve all your problems. You'll never have to think about this again. It's going to be great. And that is the
Hmm.
expectation that we go into when we start these things. And he was bringing it back to the idea where for ourselves, I'm just going to say, like, as the customer, just it's a little easier to differentiate, and then versus the seller or
Hmm.
of the service or product, it starts with ideas. And there needs to be this communication of like, okay, what do I want? Like, for me,
Hmm.
I want my skin to be clear. I want my skin to be healthy. For you, you want your period to regulate. You don't want to be dealing with breakthrough bleeding.
Hmm.
Next is concerns, and this is exactly what we're just talking about right now. Like with you, your concern is that you're going to have bleeding, you're going to have headaches, um, mood swings. You don't want to
Outright fertility issues.
fertility issues. For me, I'm
Like that's a scary one.
yeah, like that is scary, especially, getting to be the age that we are. Um,
Hmm.
and then for me, I have to also deal with like redness and dryness and rashes and kind of eczema-like skin
Yeah.
from treatments, right? And, my concern is like, oh, am I going to be damaging my skin or am I going to be helping it? So it's really like we need to be using these concerns to gauge, you know, is this really going to meet those concerns? And the seller needs to be thinking about it like in a doctor. A doctor is the perfect version of the seller in that, okay, is what I'm recommending and what I'm saying to them, is that going to be a concern? Is that going to be a side effect that they are worried about? Like for me, and this tetrano, bleh, me and this cream. Sorry, guys, I'm like losing my
Yes.
mind. I was progressing so well, and I wanted to continue getting better because I was seeing these results with my supplement and working with my naturopath. And then this other doctor was just like, oh, well, this will help. Like, this will just help things progress. So I was like, great.
Mhm.
Like, awesome. I'll have clearer skin faster. Um, and where the concern was that was not voiced to me. And also I'll admit, like, I probably did not voice it myself, where it's just like, okay, we're going to give you this stuff, but it's going to make you purge and make your skin really
Yeah.
dry, red, and itchy. And you're going to have really low self esteem because you were doing so great. And now you're like back months and months of work. Um,
Mhm.
so that was something that was not really discussed. And so
Yeah.
I had all this expectation because I feel like sometimes we go to like a professional, it doesn't matter if it's like a doctor or whatever it is, and they give us something, we're expecting those immediate results, right? Like we
Mhm.
want instant results, we don't want to wait, and we think this is going to be perfect, and then we either use it
Mhm.
forever and ever, right?
Yeah.
That didn't really happen for us. So immediately, when I woke up the next morning and over the next 2 weeks my skin is getting worse and worse and worse, I'm like,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
what the hell happened here? I was doing great, and now I'm like, you know, can't even touch my face. That's how, like,
Mhm.
painful and irritated it looks. So that then leads to E, which is expectations. And because the ideas and the concerns were not really discussed and addressed, now my
Mhm.
expectation is like completely dashed. And now I just feel
Yeah.
really let down, right? Because it's
Yeah.
one thing if you know exactly what you're going into, but it's another if you're thinking
Mhm.
like, "Oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to love it. It's going to work for me."
Yeah.
And it doesn't. So that's where a lot of our expectations just don't come true.
Yep, I can relate to that, especially when with my situation, I was actually quite hesitant to do it. Uh, and the only reason I did was because I was like, it wasn't the birth control pill. And the alternative is that I freak out every single month.
Yeah.
So this was the alternative, and it has not worked out the way that I want it to. And it makes me sad. And kind of jumping off on this is one thing that I think both you and I are learning from this process of, you with your skin and me with this whatever hormonal issue is going on, is that the only thing that we can really control is our actions
Mhm.
and our reactions
Mhm.
to a circumstance. And I mean this in the way where, at least for me and for you, like we've both had hormonal stuff forever, where each time somebody puts you on something and they're like, oh, just give it some time, like give it a few months, it'll regulate,
Mhm.
everything will be fine. And eventually, like, that got to me to a point where I was so frustrated with that I was like, "You know what? No."
Yeah.
And I booked an appointment and I'm like, "Either we figure this out or get it out of my body,"
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the thing is it's just like, it really hurts when your expectation is dashed, but that's also the point where you're like, "Okay, no one is going to," especially sometimes when it comes to medical stuff, "no one is going to advocate for you.
Mhm.
You have to do it yourself," because a lot of the time as women, you go in and you're like, "I'm having this issue," and they're like, "Oh, doesn't sound that serious, keep an eye on it." Or, the famous one that I've had in this situation is, "Oh, is it starting to kind of look better?" And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, okay, well, everything should be fine then. And I'm like, but it's still happening. So I think it's just about we're reacting a certain way and we are feeling discomfort. And that discomfort is what needs to urge us to change that circumstance for ourselves. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are. And like a great quote I came across was expectation doesn't guarantee you anything,
Oof,
right? Like, oh, that was a hard one.
bruh.
That was a hard one
That's a
to
hard
deal with.
one. That's a
Yeah.
hard.
So, like for me, like for you, your action to kind of readjust your expectations and meet the results that you are looking for was to make that appointment and be like, hey, figure it out or it's coming out and we got to do testing. Like no one is
Mhm.
listening to my concerns about what is actually wrong with me, right? So
Mhm.
you're kind of going back to that concern phase of just being like, okay, there's a problem here, obviously. um, Stop
Mhm.
telling me to wait it out because obviously that's not working. And
Yeah.
for me, I had to make that decision of like, okay, am I going to stay on the tretinoin or am I
Mhm.
going to come off? And it was a really hard decision. Like literally, I was flip flopping. I emailed my naturopath and had a chat with him, and he was like, honestly, he's like, I support you if you want to
Mhm.
stay on it. He's like, that is totally your decision, because we are treating the root cause of your acne,
Mhm. Mhm.
and this, yes, it's going to be hard, but this will help with like the surface level in the long term, and that really helped me change my perspective a little bit
Mhm.
because I was just so concerned because if you've ever had to deal with like topical treatments, you kind of get this sense of feeling like, okay, it's working, it's working, it's working. But if I stop, is it going to stop working? And a lot of times it does, right? Because it's
Mhm.
not like that topical treatment was actually fixing, what's causing the acne. And if you go back and listen to last week's episode, you can listen to us all talk about why I have acne. Um,
Mhm.
and that makes it a lot easier to rationalize when you have this like dual perspective. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what helped me make the decision to stay on the tretinoin because I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe something I don't have to take forever. Like I am actually treating the root cause, but I need help right now to get rid of old
Mhm.
redness and old scarring and just really help bring everything up to the surface because that's what tretinoin does. Like I was kind of slowly getting rid of old things, but this puts it all
Mhm.
like on display at once. So it's a little hard to deal with, but at least like once the purge is done, it's done. Hopefully.
Mhm.
don't
Hopefully,
want to
fingers
I
crossed.
don't want to raise anyone's expectations, And once I decided to do that, I was like, okay, I need to research and understand from a community what has happened to other women who have been on this. So, you know what? My go-to
Mhm.
was YouTube. Because I
Mhm.
needed that visual and I didn't want to watch videos of the women who are like, oh, my skin is like glass, it's perfect, but they had no photos of like the bad times. They were just talking about like, yeah, I use it
Mhm.
for anti-aging because like this is what this cream can also do.
Mhm.
I'm like, no, I want to see the severe purging acne, and
Mhm.
we are going to just kind of wallow together about that. And then I want to see your progress and like how happy you are that you stayed on it. And oh my God,
Mhm.
like I found those videos and I literally watched them for hours yesterday, like nonstop in the background. I had these videos on and I was just like, show me the pictures, show me the progress. How do you feel now? And I honestly felt so much better. And what I did is I actually went into the bathroom mirror and I took a picture so I
Mhm.
can kind of track my own journey. And I'm only going to do it once a week because I don't want to become obsessed.
Mhm.
But it's very hard when you look at your face like 40, 50 times a day and you're just like, it's
Mhm.
still bad. Where I was thinking, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a picture this week. I'll take one like next Wednesday and I'll see if there's any improvement just so I can kind of have
Progress
that. Yeah,
pics.
like just so I can have like that same progress and before and after. And so now
Mhm.
I'm just like, oh, okay, like I've given myself a little stepping stone here, little reference point.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
other thing, I had to do was like, I'm really only purging in the places that are like my hot spots. So like on my chin and like my
Mhm.
jaw, um,
Mhm.
from like the cheekbones up. I'm, like, already noticing, like, my skin is getting very clear and smooth just more
Mhm.
from like the tretinoin and anti-aging effects. And I was just like, okay, this is a mind fuck, guys. Like,
Wow.
um, I'm looking real rough on the bottom half of my face, but the upper half, like, I'm looking
I'm
20.
looking
I know,
sexy.
I'm looking 20. So, like, as I go in the mirror, I'm like, I'm just gonna, like, cover up. I'm just gonna look at the bottom half of my face,
Mhm.
you know? So, I have to cling to those little things, right? Like, I have to be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this little patch here is so smooth. Oh my god, it's so nice." I'm just like, "Just wait till the rest of it's like that," you know? So, that is my
Yes.
new expectation where I'm not putting a timeline on it. I'm just picking something small and being like,
Mhm.
"Okay, that's one step of improvement. That's good enough for today." And this isn't something I tell myself once and I'll, like, never say it again because I'm good. I literally tell myself this, like, 40 times in a day, but maybe
Mhm.
tomorrow I'll only tell myself 39 times, and maybe it's 38 after that. So, that is, like,
Good.
yeah, that in terms of my health right now, like, that is where I'm trying to manage my expectations. I hope, like, I'm sure we have so many listeners who are going through something similar, like, insert whatever with your body and your health, and yeah, you can just hopefully relate to that, and just you just have to look for that one little bright thing.
I love
Yeah.
that. The new expectation I'm taking away from this situation is more of an expectation of
Mhm.
myself. And it is to take more action to one, advocate for myself, but also put myself in situations where the healthcare provider I'm working for, or not working for, working with,
Yes.
actually knows
Yeah.
me and my body.
Yes.
Because you know what? The doctor, I trusted her. Like I've been with her since I was 13 years old. She should have known that if this is what the issue is, she should have known that low dose hormonal birth control options do not work for me. It's shown that twice in my experiences with her. And she just wrote a prescription, was like, this is what works for younger women. Like, did not take into account, like my
Mhm.
history. But you know what? I didn't go in to advocate for myself with my own history.
Yeah, it's not like you went and were asking the question, like, not that you would have known to ask questions, like, you're not a doctor,
Exactly.
but, you didn't voice your own concerns of just being like, "Hey, you know what? I've had issues with headaches in the past and bleeding, like, do you think this is
Mhm.
gonna come up? Like, is it known for these things?"
Is the lower dose of it going to cause issues?
Mhm.
Exactly. And the other thing is, and you kind of brought this to light yesterday, is that when I was put on that estrogen balancer pill and then suddenly moved on to another brand, they didn't even see me in person. There was no testing done
Right.
to figure out what was wrong. They didn't really tell me what the differences were between the pills. They didn't tell me how to transition off of it if it wasn't working. And that's kind of the thing is, you know, it's worth the money
Mhm.
and the time to go through that testing process instead of trying to get a quick fix. Cuz that's what I kind of did. Is I was like I didn't have the money at the time to pay for it. So I was like, "Oh, okay, I've had this naturopath again for 10, 12 years. She knows me. I trust her."
Yeah.
When it comes to your hormones, like really when it comes to anything like with your reproductive health and that system, don't just base it off of trust. Is my new expectation of myself.
Yeah, like, we have the scientific capabilities to, like, narrow down if you have an imbalance in your body. Let's use those systems,
Yes.
right? And I think when we bring it back to
Yeah.
expectation, you would have come out and we both would have come out with completely different expectations, right? Like, when it's just based on that trust one, you're just like, "Oh, okay, like, great." Like, it's kinda weird that we automatically go to this, like, "This has gotta be great. This is what's gonna work."
Mhm.
Yet when we're actually given the details of like, okay, it might work, you might experience this, things are a little bit more real to us.
Mhm.
We actually like lower our expectations for a good reason because, if we are coming up with a challenge in whatever we're facing, it's just not this huge shock of just like, "Oh my god, you said it would work," right? Like it's more just
Yes.
like, "Oh, okay, this is what's happening." When I think about what I want and what I'm worried about, where do we need to make a pivot to stay on that path, right? I think it's just a lot more logical of a way to make a plan and deal with issues in your life.
Exactly. So, that was a good pity
Whew,
party.
okay. We
Love that for
can
us.
we
I
move on
think
to
we
the next
can.
expectation thing now? Are we good? Are we getting
Yes.
off our little pity party
Yes.
soapbox?
Yes, it was 33 minutes, unedited, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know if you also have an issue with these
Please
things
join our pity
because
party, okay? I love a good, like,
yes,
public pity party. Let's all just air our
yes,
grievances about various things. I'm down with that.
yes, and if anybody has this specific IUD and has had the same problems and you have figured a way out of it, please let me know what you did because that would be great to know. Shall we touch on kind of career life stuff or relationships first?
Let's
Because
let's go, like,
I
life.
am
I've kinda got one. I'll be brief with it. Um,
okay.
I feel like I'm in a good place with this, so I'm kinda gonna use it as a good example of, letting go of expectation and managing it, and that is actually with my riding. If anyone wants to be extremely humbled in life, ride horses because you can be on top of the world, and the next day, like, your sports equipment just doesn't feel like agreeing with you and dumps you on the ground.
Yep.
It's really hard to have expectations, yet so easy to have expectations in riding. You know, I've been doing this for well over 20 years, and I've had, like, big win days, you know, on great horses, and, the thing is, nothing is ever the same day to day or horse to horse. So, you know, one
And the next day after the big win, you roll into the barn and you look your horse in the eye and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a bad
I know,
day."
you just know, like, "Oh, shit, you're in a bad mood." Um, or you're wild, "Oh god, the weather has changed, and so, like, it's gonna be a rough day."
Mhm,
So, you know, just quick example, you know, I my last competitive horse that I had was a fabulous horse. You know, we had built a relationship over years, and she was incredible. She was a heart horse to me, and then, she was retired, and
mhm,
now I have a new horse, and he is younger, and so really you have to let go of any expectation because, you know, one day I was jumping really big jumps in competitions and, you know, winning and all that, and now I'm on a completely different horse. He's a brand new partner for me
mhm,
with a different attitude, personality, skill set, and I'm rebuilding this relationship. I'm creating
mhm,
a new relationship, right?
mhm.
So, what used to be big jumps are now little jumps, and what used to be like, "Oh, let's walk in the ring and do our job," is now like, "Hey, he needs to learn how to horse show." So, this is where, like, riding has been a very good practice of managing
Yep,
expectations because, you know, like I said, every day is a little bit different. And as I've transitioned from, like, a junior rider to an amateur rider, I've really had to change my mindset because, you know, as a junior, you wanna be competitive, you wanna be the best and all that, and now as an amateur, I'm just like, "You know what? We went out today, we didn't die. It's a good day." You know? Where
I did not fall
yeah,
down
like
and my hip is still intact.
yeah, and it's kinda funny when I think back to how I used to be, where some of the rides I have now, I have some pretty bumpy moments. You know, I've got a greener horse, he's incredibly intelligent, and I need to keep up with him sometimes, and times when I would have been really frustrated by that because I would have wanted to have this, like, control and it needs to be perfect. Now I'm just like,
Mhm.
"Hey, we made a margin of improvement." I It made my day, you know, like, I could not stop
Mhm.
telling people about it, like, I'm like, "I cantered my horse, and he was balanced," you know, like
I cantered my horse in a circle and he bent properly.
I was just, like, smiling. I was, like, so excited, and then, you know, I jumped a jump and he was soft, and I was just like, "Oh, you are the best horse in the world," you know, like and, like, I jump one jump, right? Um, so that is where
2'3".
yeah, like, literally, I was just like, "Oh, it's just off the ground," but he was fabulous, and, like, did we jump a whole course? No, but man, that one jump was incredible, and these are now the moments I live for, as an adult amateur rider. If any horse people are listening, they know. Life is very different from a junior to a amateur rider, and, yeah, so that's just kinda where expectation doesn't guarantee you a thing, and really you
Mhm,
have to let go of it. I think especially as we get older and we have to remember that we do these things for enjoyment, right? Like
mhm.
I genuinely love to ride horses. I love to be around horses. And chances are I'm not going to the Olympics. All right. I've
Yeah.
I've made my peace with that a long time ago. And and I was listening to a really great talk by Sarah Hofflin. She is a gold medalist at the Olympics for freestyle skiing. And
Mhm,
she won the gold medal at like age 28, which is fairly old for a skier. And she only started freestyle skiing when she was 21, which is also pretty old to be starting a ski career. And I
mhm,
just saw myself so much in her. And literally, she was just like, expect less, you know? Go
mhm.
out there because it's fun and you just need to have fun, be smart, and do it because it makes you happy. So, yeah, and
I love that.
yeah, and that's what I really love because like her whole philosophy was just, people were asking her, "What's next?" Like, "You've already won the Olympic gold. Are you gonna do it again?" And she's like, "You know what's really great? I wanna learn how to do this trick." Like
Mhm,
like she just would completely brush it off of, what competition she was gonna win, and she just truly focused on her joy of skiing, and that's where I wanna keep relating to someone like that of just like, "Man, I am so happy with what I just accomplished." So I know how to jump big jumps. I've done it for many years, but now, I'm an older rider. I do this because I love to do it. I'm riding a younger horse, and I have to break down those things where, like, I'm not trying to go into the ring and be perfect and win. I'm just being like, "You know what? We're working on this one thing right now." Like that, if I can
mhm.
achieve that one thing, it has been a good day. So, I think that's such an important mindset, and her whole philosophy was just like, find something you love, work harder at it, and lower your expectations. And I'm just like, that is the most adult friendly quote I've ever heard. So, that's like just my new mantra. And it doesn't mean like I don't want to be successful. Of course I want to be successful, but that's not gonna be my goal. My goal is not gonna be
Yeah,
to be successful. I'm just going to focus on small things, and then together, that is the success.
mic drop.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED
Thank
Talk.
you.
She is also on the
Okay.
TEDx YouTube channel. I love TEDx. I don't know if anyone else listens to it. I love them.
I do enjoy
Yes.
a good viewing every once in a
Yeah.
while.
I'll rhyme off all the
Okay.
names I watched over expectations because, definitely for this episode tonight, we are not coming from a place of knowledge. We actually had to go out and
No.
be like, we need to learn. And like, as I'm watching all these great speakers, I'm just like writing down tips. I'm like, I really need to do this.
Well, I'm the queen of unrealistic expectations, like, just wait.
Yeah. All right.
I'll just drop some bombs.
Awesome.
Alright, so we're gonna stay in the life realm here,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna talk about my stint of wanting to go to law school, and what I want you to think about as I tell this story is detaching yourself from the outcome of something that, it's schooling or a career change, something that could change, like, will change the trajectory of your life, right? Like a big life event. And as I was kind of thinking about this, it really, what I'm about to say kind of summarizes that whole cheesy thing of life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Oh, that's so cute.
Right? So I and kind of like a way that I was thinking about it is like by detaching yourself from the outcome by not identifying yourself, by not attaching your identity to the outcome of something.
Yeah.
So when I decided to apply to law school, I was not in a happy place. So for me, when I made that decision, it was like, I need to change my life, right? I wasn't happy in my job. I wasn't happy where I was living, all this stuff. So I was just like, okay, well, this is the way out. So I put everything into it, and over time, this idea that law school was going to be what changed my life really took hold of me to a point where like I was obsessed over it.
Mhm.
Like everything I did, like I tried to put so much positive energy that way. I spent forever studying for the LSAT. I spent so much time on my like applications, all of this stuff. And then the application process was over and it was just me and my thoughts. And I found that I was kind of going through the motions of life a year ahead. Like life was happening, but my brain was like, but next September I'll be in law school, right?
Yeah.
I was living life that way. And during that period of time where I was not paying attention to what was going on, I worked a really fun job that completely changed my perspective on my professional capabilities and just reminded me that I'm a smart person, which is huge. I finally found the relationship that I've been waiting for. And I just fell into the job that I am currently doing that is very fulfilling. And the career path that it's presenting to me is probably going to get me to a similar place that becoming a lawyer would have done, just probably a lot faster. And all of that happened while I was focusing on something else.
Yeah, it's kinda crazy, right?
I didn't even realize that it was happening, and even, like, there's this one hike that I went on with my boyfriend when we just started dating, where he kind of very sweetly told me to give my head a shake because I was just like, "If I don't get into law school, like, what was all this for, etcetera?" And he was just, like, raising his hand like, "Hi, I mean, I think that this is a pretty good thing going on in your life." And I was just like, "You're right." And what I'm trying to say with this is that, you know what? Like every step that you take that in some way is moving your life forward, whether or not it works out, you're still taking those steps forward. Something you are moving forward in some way, and that's great. I did not go to law school, but my life is entirely different from the day that I decided to apply,
Yeah.
right? It was that decision to take a step forward and make my life better that I put that energy out there and my life is better. It just doesn't look the way that I thought it was going to because of the fact that I was looking for a feeling, not something physical out in the world,
Yeah, that's so
right?
true. Yeah, no, you definitely highlighted a lot of good points there
Mhm.
because I think
So,
a lot of us get especially when we're young, we map out our lives and
mhm,
we're like, "This is exactly how it's going to go, and this is how it's gonna
mhm,
turn out." Like, um, and then we're so disappointed when it doesn't happen. But for you, you kinda slow like, I know you struggled with it, but then you slowly started to detach yourself from that
mhm,
expectation of like, "'Kay, this is how I'm gonna feel when I am in law school, and this is what my life is gonna be." And then you
mhm.
were able to find your happiness and realize a path that you
Exactly.
never thought you would be on. And, like, I think for the most part, you seem pretty happy on that path. So,
I am.
good thing you didn't go to law school.
I get to work with you, like, every day,
Yeah.
so, it just warms my heart. It's great. I have a great time. But kind of an example of something that's different now is, I'm going to venture into going after my CPA designation, but there's some prerequisite classes that I have to do before I can enter into the educational side of that. So I applied for this course that's like a year and a half ish that would get me those classes. And I remember like I kind of like even getting the acceptance for it, I was just like, oh, cool. I didn't latch onto it where I was like, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to die,
Mhm.
and it's a completely different experience. And I think that is just a lesson that I learned over the last 2 years is like life moves forward regardless. And what is meant for you will find you and it kind of just falls into your lap. And really, like, the expectation that I put on law school and that outcome was just causing more harm than giving me good, because I self-identified with it in a way where, not being accepted because it was a really difficult year to get accepted. Some people I know that are much smarter than me didn't even get in. But I was just like, oh, well, I must be stupid or I must not be like worth the law education. And it's just like, no, you just had a tough crowd to compete with.
Yeah.
But with that self identification, you are just like, oh my God, I'm just down in the dumps. And that is a danger of unrealistic expectations, guys. So, have like an expectation of how you want to feel.
Yeah,
I think that's what I'm trying to
and
say.
another great speaker I was listening to, which falls perfectly into what you're saying here, was Nat Ware, and he was discussing the expectation gap. And it was the idea of when expectations exceed reality, right? Like, what realistically are the odds of law school for anyone or whatever someone is pursuing? That is going to be as great as you've made it up to be in your mind, right? Like, very low odds that anything
Mhm.
would be that great because our minds are so great at putting scenarios together, right?
Like, what if I did get there and I hated
Yeah.
it?
Like, then how would you feel? Oh my god, you would
That would be
it would be
bad.
awful. And the thing is, the amount of expectation you were putting on towards that life, even if you did get there, reality never would have been able to live up to it. Like, there was just no
No.
way because you were going for that, Elle Woods moment, right?
Yes. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I was like, I'm gonna meet my what's his name? Not Warren Huntington the third. I'm like, I'm gonna bring my rabbit. I'm gonna be really successful in law school, and I'm gonna get the cute boyfriend. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank as well. Emmett.
Emmett. Yes, Emmett. I was gonna find my Emmett, and then I found someone else who was much more perfect. So
Yes, that's true.
we're all good.
That's true. And just
We're
on
all
this
good.
note, a little bit of that expectation exceeding what reality possibly could deliver. Technology has been absolutely detrimental to our happiness
Mm-hmm.
and dashing our expectations because of anything that is photoshopped. And one thing I was watching was travel destinations, some of the most beautiful and most well-known travel destinations in the world, like the Taj Mahal. You see pictures of it and there's no one around. It's quiet, it's pristine. But when you actually see a real photo of it that's not been photoshopped or planned out or you're just standing there right in front of it, like there's hundreds of people around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's just technology has really kind of raised our expectations. And then when we get to places that we've been like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm finally here. You're like, oh, this is it. you know,
Yeah.
like the world is not photoshopped in real life. And
No.
and someone was saying that, it's those things that you stumble upon, sorry, that are usually the most beautiful to you. And even in like life, right? Like you stumbled into that relationship, you stumbled into that job that led you to where you are now, and you
Mm-hmm.
never expected that. And yet it's everything
No.
to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Just gonna tear up a little bit.
we're having a very emotional night.
I
Sorry,
know.
guys.
I just like, oh my God, are our periods coming? Probably.
Something going on. You know what?
Something's
I
going
was
on.
listening to Natalie's The Doorway. If anyone listens to that podcast, she does like a monthly
Oh yeah.
energy forecast. And I just listened to April and it was called The Break. And
Yeah.
I think I quoted it to you today where I was just like, she just says, we're breaking open this month. And I was like, fuck.
See, when I first saw it, I saw it on Instagram where she's like, this month's energy theme is the break. And I was just like, oh, we're gonna get a break from
That's what
the
I thought.
shitstorm.
No, 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 we're not getting a
No, it's
break.
just gonna
We're
be
literally broken.
we are just going to
Yeah,
cry
we
all
are
the
breaking
time.
open. Um,
Yes. But speaking on relationships, shall we get into unrealistic expectations and those? Because I have something I want to say.
okay, yeah. Are we just gonna drag ourselves through the mud here?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. I'm ready to go down there with you.
Our boyfriends are not allowed to listen to this episode
No, because
as we drag ourselves through the
they
mud.
will never let us live it down. They'll be like, "See, we're
No.
not as crazy and bad as you make us seem."
Yes, admitting our flaws. I
Never.
I mean, never. But a great way, guys, to manage unrealistic expectations in relationships, especially romantic ones, is to continuously catch yourself on your double standards because I have
I have
many.
many.
Um, one one perfect example is when, I put my coffee mug into the sink and do not make the effort to put it in the dishwasher. But if he does it,
Oh.
oh, I'll look at the mug and I'll be like, why is it not in the dishwasher? It's right there.
It's
It's
sitting right
right
next to my
there.
mug in the sink. Why?
Why didn't you put my mug and your mug in the dishwasher? First of all, how dare you? Um, yeah, so there's that. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is something that I've had to practice lately, and I'm not very good at it at all, is if am asking my partner to do something, or a friend as well, like if I'm asking someone to do something for me, or, there's a expectation that I have around communication or how I want to be treated, et cetera, et cetera. I've been trying to practice like looking at myself and being like, okay, am I doing that?
Mhm.
Or am I giving this person what I'm demanding of them? And if the answer is no, I'm like, oh, I need to work on some growth.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the
Yeah.
coffee mug because as we speak, I'm looking at my boyfriend's pile of laundry, and, it's just
Oh,
irking me, and yet
didn't you just clean that?
I put it in a laundry basket, but now it's made its way back onto the floor. I don't know what happened. And
Good,
yet,
good,
to
good.
my right, I'm looking at my pile of laundry on the floor. It's fine. It
Oh,
can be there, it's fine. But his pile cannot be there.
okay, you wanna know a funny story? You wanna know a funny
Sure.
story? So, my boyfriend has this tendency when we're watching a movie or something at night that just slowly over time, he just peels his socks off
Oh, that's weird.
and will just put them on the couch
Okay.
or the floor, and he'll just leave them there.
Mhm.
Anyway, one time, I don't know why, but I wound up taking my socks off and I put them on the couch. You would think that I committed a crime. He looked over at me and he was just pointing and he was just like, "What? What is that? Is that a sock on the couch for longer than 1 second? Rachel, how dare you?" And I was just like, "Okay, but the thing is that you leave them there." Um, so yeah, he called me out hardcore, but the thing is I'm like, "Well, my socks are small and they don't smell as bad, so it's clearly not."
It's clearly not a me problem.
It's clearly a different
Yeah,
situation, and then I cleaned up my socks, but, um, yeah.
yeah. So this is what I have said to my boyfriend because this happened just last night, actually. He was scrolling on Reddit, and I don't know, we came across this, like, clip of, this father-to-be, and, like, he was just like, "Oh, I wanted to be supportive of my wife, so I put on the baby weight with her," and he had, like, really like, he let his hair grow long, and I don't know, it was this whole thing, and, my boyfriend had really long hair through COVID, and, like, it just wasn't a good
It
look. It just wasn't the
it
best look.
was rather long.
Yeah, just wasn't,
Yeah.
a good look, and he goes like, "Laura, how come he's allowed to grow his hair long?" And I was just like, "Oh, well, it's an okay look for him." He's like, "Well, how come I have to keep my hair cut short and nice and trimmed?" I'm just like, "'Cause darling, I just want the best for you."
Okay, see,
He just told me to fuck off.
my boyfriend and your boyfriend have the opposite problem, where I have to convince him not to buzz his head on, like, a weekly
Oh,
basis.
that's so funny.
He's just like, "I want a buzz cut," and I'm just like, "Honey, I have seen a picture of you with a buzz cut. It's not a good
I know,
look."
right? We just want the best for them, okay? I'm sorry we have double standards,
And he's
but we just
I
want the
know, and he's
best.
like, "It looks good." He's like, "It looked good," and I'm just like, "Sure. Sure it did."
Okay.
I'm just like, I'm like, "Honey, just let me continue to cut your hair. I promise you'll look great." Oh god. Yeah, I really don't have much to say here other than the fact that this is something that I am terrible
We're
at, but I'm
still a
working
work
on
in
it.
progress, I think, on the double standard side. We cannot put our expectations onto someone else, right? Like, I
Yes.
think you and I are both just notorious for doing
Mhm.
that because I think maybe in our lives, people have put their expectations on us.
Hot
I
take.
definitely have actually had that experience where
Yeah.
I'm just like, "I wanna do it this way," and everyone's just like, "No, do it this way."
We're gonna do it this
Yeah,
way.
and I in turn do the same thing to other people.
Mhm.
So I am because really I think the foundation of it is like we truly want the best for someone. Like I
Mhm.
have never gone to someone with the expectation that like I want you to fail. Like no, like that's a horrible thing to do. I don't want to do that.
Mhm.
I want you to be all you can be, right? But I think sometimes the way we go about it, it's a little aggressive. And
Just like a little
yeah,
bit.
and I'm sure for like the person on the receiving side, it's kind of like eggshells, right? You're just like, you know, "Oh, am I doing it right? Are they gonna approve? Am I gonna lose their
I
love?"
f
You know, like,
I feel really
I
attacked
know,
right
I'm
now.
sorry, I'm just feeling like, wow, we can really mind fuck someone real easy with our just, like, subtle little hints
Ooh.
of laundry. Um, yeah,
Ooh.
whoops.
Ooh.
We
Uh-oh, I
better
feel
work
like
on
I
that
need
one,
to
Rachel.
go I feel like I need to go apologize.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to stop doing the pointing
Yeah,
thing.
so it's hard because we actually, like to us, we are doing it from a place of love, but like, that's not really fair to that person because maybe that's not what they want, and then in turn,
Mhm.
like, we're also letting our own expectations down because we're just like, "Oh, I want this person to be this," when they're never
Mhm.
gonna be that, right? Like, that's just not them, and I think sometimes we also, like, build someone up in our head of how it's going to
Mhm.
be, and then we're extremely let down when it's just, like, not so much the catfish
Yeah.
thing, but when, like, the real deal comes out and you're just like, "Oh, okay, that's not what I thought this was going to be."
This does not match the script that I made in my head while I was going to sleep last night.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's why, this is going down a completely different path now, but I think that's why a lot of relationships maybe don't work out nowadays. You
Mhm.
know, it's a whole other thing where it's kinda like that dating without the commitment deal. I've been
Yeah.
That's been flying around a lot lately. Maybe we have to just
I don't
I don't
even
even know, it's like the situationship thing. Um,
we could do a whole
we
episode
probably
on
could.
that, except it would be like 1
Yeah,
point.
'cause I don't know. And
I don't understand.
yeah, so it's kinda like it goes hand in hand with, like, we're building our expectations up, and then when they're not met, we're just like, "Okay, well, I'm out," right? But, like, you're gonna
Mhm.
maybe be stuck in a continuous cycle that way
Yeah.
because you keep trying to strive for this expectation of other people, and they keep letting you down, and like, "Oh my gosh, that's a pretty fast way to get bitter," in my opinion, right?
Yes. Yes. And another, I'm just going to actually throw this back to something that you said in one of our very, very early episodes, but it's been sticking with me lately.
Mhm,
And that is similar to what you're talking about here. And it's, you know, um, so you said it in this way where you said, I'm allowed to have a bad
mhm.
day, but they're not,
Yes. Oh my god,
and it's
yeah.
just like, it's that unrealistic expectation of like, I can act however I want, but the second you do it, I don't like it.
Yes.
'Cause and I think, at least for me, that comes from a place of, like, I like harmony
Mhm.
around me, so, I can be in a terrible mood, but, like, everyone around me has to be feeling good. So, then if, like, my partner is having a bad day or, like, say, like, I'm talking to you and you're having a rough day or something, I'm kind of like, but let's all feel good."
I know, kumbaya, people kumbaya.
Kumbaya, let's all be happy.
Yeah.
And I think that this is especially, like it does happen in friendships sometimes, but I feel like with your friend, you're almost like more inclined to be like, okay, let's sit on the couch and talk it out,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Where when, especially if you live with them, with your partner, you're kind of just like, why aren't you happy right
Yeah, it's kinda
now? I
weird.
don't know. I don't know why that is, but I'm definitely different if you are having a bad day versus if my boyfriend is.
Oh, I'm totally the same because I could just, like, I know when you're both having a bad day, but for you, I'm just like,
Mhm.
"Hey, what's going on? Do we need to talk about it? Like, and
Do
then
you
with
need
like
to cry?
I'm like with a guy, I'm just like, what's wrong? And they're like, nothing. And I'm like, well, clearly. I don't know.
Well,
You
maybe
need a new approach,
mhm,
maybe.
maybe part of that issue though, and maybe we would actually need to talk to them about this, but I wonder if part of that problem is like both of us date men
Hmm.
is because, we talk a lot about societal expectations put on women, but we were also conditioned as women to be like men don't cry
True.
or men
Like,
don't
yeah, like men
have
were
feelings in
conditioned
the
to
way.
not open up.
Exactly. And then we were conditioned to be like men don't have emotions.
Hmm.
So I wonder if that impatience that we have in those circumstances is because of the fact where we're like, it's not matching what we were raised to believe.
That's true. That could definitely be a culprit there. Wow. So many eye-opening
Ooh,
moments today.
wow. Wow. I'm doing a lot with my hands while I'm recording this. I know you can't see me, but I'm like, I feel like we're getting somewhere. I don't know if this episode makes sense, but I feel like we could all learn something from
Well, we went
this.
with the intention of expectations. That's where I know we
Yes, we
started.
did.
And,
Don't give us unrealistic expectations,
yeah,
guys. We
please,
just
please
show up with
lower
our
your
mics.
expectations of this show. We are doing our best.
That's what this whole episode was to bring us to this spot where we say, "So please have low expectations."
We're low budget. We're not we're not masters of much.
We still have the same $100 microphones.
Hey, these are great microphones. Don't knock the
They are,
microphones.
they are. Oh, I
Um,
love my microphone, she's great.
excellent.
Yeah.
So kind of the last thing I wanted to dive in onto relationships though is almost that like expectation that you have to do everything together. And that kind of just goes off of what you were just saying of just like that expectation of
Mhm,
everything has to be happy all the time, right? Which that's just not real life. I mean,
mhm,
no one's happy every day. And it's important that, you still live your own life, have your own
mhm,
money, go on trips by yourself, hang out with your own friends, let your partner hang out with their own friends and go on a trip without you. It's all kind of also goes back to that double standard, right? Where, maybe someone in the relationship is fine if they go out to the bar and their partner stays home.
mhm.
But if their partner goes out, you're just like, hey, why are you doing that? Right?
I always tie it back to, and this was a big thing that I noticed in university where, like, girls would have a lot of guy friends,
Hmm.
but they would be pissed if their boyfriend was friends with girls,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's totally
And
that
it's
same
just kind
thing,
of
right?
like yeah, and I've had to have that conversation with people before where I'm just like, "Okay, but you're just telling him not to hang out with his friends who are girls, but he would never ask like, maybe he would ask that of you, but you're not doing it.
Right.
You wouldn't even think to do that. Like, you would actually refuse to do it." So, that's that's definitely a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the base of our expectations in relationships is like really that double standard, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you can have expectations for yourself, obviously, in moderation, but for other people, you cannot manage those. Like, you are not that person. So,
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. It's just like how other people might have expectations for you. And then when you don't live up to them, you're supposed to feel bad about that. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you can express your desires for what you want.
absolutely. Oh, it's,
That is part of a relationship, and
yeah.
that's part of figuring out if your relationship will work.
Mhm.
But, if it's something that doesn't come naturally to them, it's more becomes about are they trying versus are they perfectly doing this one random thing
Yeah.
I asked of them
Yeah.
constantly. Like humans make mistakes, humans slip up.
Mhm.
That's normal. I slip up all the time, and I'm sure we all do.
Oh, yeah.
Putting the expectation that the person that is your partner and you're living with, putting that expectation that they are perfect and don't make any mistakes ever is like very unfounded.
Yeah, yeah, you're not gonna get
Yeah.
very far with that one. Yeah, and I think just to wrap up this conversation in general about expectations, like, yes, we need to let go of expectations, we need to lower our expectations, or at least just think about them in a way like, is this what reality can actually deliver? Let's not
Mhm.
get into that wishy-washy of like, wow, this is like a fairy dreamland. 'Cause then
Mhm.
you're just guaranteed to be let down, you know? Like,
Yes.
that's just setting yourself up for failure, and we're not trying to say, like, we shouldn't dream, we shouldn't set goals, we shouldn't, be excited about things. Of course, we should be. But we just need to be understanding of, we are not tied to those expectations. We're not any lesser of a person if we don't meet them. And if our expectations change, that's fine. Because I think a lot of people, you know, um, if you were planning on being a doctor your whole life and you told everyone that, and then maybe you got there and you're like, what, this ain't for me. You shouldn't feel bad that
Mhm.
you have a new dream now, right? Like, I don't know. I think we just need to be fluid
Mhm.
and just take things one step at a time.
Mic drop number 2.
No problem. I
No
can give you like an
problem.
infuser drop. Oh, that sounds really weird. Sorry, my tea is draining
That
up.
sounds really weird. All right,
There you
shall
go.
we stop shall we stop, talking our poor listeners' ears
Yeah,
off?
sorry guys. We don't know where this episode came from. Um, we hope you
We
enjoyed
needed
it. I
to
hope
get
you got
emotional.
something out of it. Maybe we said like one insightful thing that made your day, or you can relate
Yes.
to our woes and join our pity party. Um,
Yes.
that's kind of all we have for expectations. I for one am super excited about next week's episode.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be some research, though.
oh my goodness. Okay, so just to give a hint, Miranda Priestley might be coming up a lot in it.
My idol.
I know, my idol too.
I know. Maybe I'll watch that movie.
Yeah, just for for research.
For research purposes, yes. All right. So, if you could please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and a 5-star rating on Spotify, that would be wonderful because yeah, we love little shout outs.
Yeah.
We're not desperate. We're not desperate, I
Don't lie,
swear.
Rachel. We are.
Maybe just a little bit. All right. Well, do you have any closing words or are we good to go?
No, I think that's oh, I did just wanna give a shout out to all the different TED Talks that I kinda referenced
Oh,
tonight
yes.
because I
Yes.
really did enjoy watching them. They were super fast. I think all of them were like 10 minutes or less. So there was Dr. Duncan Cross with ICE, that is Ideas, Concerns, Expectations. There was Heather Marshall with Expectations Don't Guarantee You a Thing.
Mhm.
There was also Nat Ware with The Expectation Gap, when expectations exceed reality. And then finally, one of my favorites was Sarah Hofflin, who was the Olympic freestyle skier. She just says that, you got to have fun, be smart, and do it because it makes you happy. And with that, live like tea.
Live like tea.